friends, I'm Lisa Combs, and this week's topic in Behavior Bites is about the need to make sure that we're always training for a situation or teaching for a situation, not in the situation. So whenever we think about training or building our skill set for something new, it's kind of intuitive to know that we would rather practice a skill in kind of a low risk, low demand, supportive situation before we're expected to demonstrate that skill in real life, in the moment, in a more stressful or demanding or high risk situation. Let's take something that most adults say that they are very, very uncomfortable, maybe even phobic about, and that is about giving a speech in front of other adults. And so when we think in terms of if we were learning that skill new, we would definitely want to learn and have some practice with that in a low risk situation with someone who's coaching us how to do that, where we have a few trial runs at it before we're expected to go in front of a group of 100 people. We would want some scaffolded opportunities to first learn what some good tips are for speaking, doing public speaking, and then get to practice with a small assignment just in front of maybe the person who's teaching us how, or a couple close friends. And then we might want to practice in front of a small group and do a presentation in a small group and gradually grow our comfort level before we present to a big audience. That would be one example. Another example might be if we're going to try to run a marathon, we would want to build that skill set gradually over time in situations where we're more comfortable with practicing our running technique, maybe in a 1 mile fun run with some friends that we know will be supportive of us, and then gradually grow to a 5K before we move on to trying to run in the Boston Marathon, right? And so we need to make sure that we remember that our kids who are struggling with behavioral challenges are really in a mode where they're growing their skills, and they're not to the point yet where they can transfer and generalize those to the real life situation. So if you want to set your students up for success, you want to make sure that you've identified what skills they're missing and then teach them those skills in a situation that's low risk, high support, low demand, and high chance of success, so that they gradually are building their confidence. They're getting more familiar with the skills that are needed before they're having to demonstrate them in the real life situation. So you're training or teaching for the situation, not in the situation. And too oftentimes I see people have frustrations with feeling like they're not making headway with a student, let's say for instance, not handling conflict successfully. And so on the playground, they're getting in a fight over who goes first on the swings, or, at a high school, there's conflicts in the hallways and the student is engaging in shoving matches in the hallways. Well, oftentimes our response is to tell the student what to do in that moment. And that's not always the best time to try to coach someone through a situation, particularly a situation where their emotions are escalated. So if you think back to what most of us know about just basic brain anatomy, when we are emotionally escalated, we are functioning from the back of our brain, our limbic system, our fight, flight, or freeze system. And that is not, while that is a system that's really important to keep us safe and to help us have survival skills, it's not the best part of our brain to be making thoughtful, well-considered decisions and choices in, because we're operating from fight to defend myself, get the heck out of here, or freeze up and just refuse to engage. because we're in protective mode or response mode to some kind of a stressor. And so that's not really the time that's not the best place to be using in our brain, the best part of our brain to be using when we're trying to learn new skills. And so the best time to add to a student's skill set in terms of how to handle a situation is before that situation ever arises. And it probably is going to need more than one exposure. It might need multiple exposures, multiple times practicing, role playing, problem solving, thinking through things in advance before that student is ready to be able to pull out that strategy or that suggestion or that particular behavior in a real life, in the moment situation. Now, so most of you are going, well, yeah, that's all common sense, but it's something we oftentimes are not thinking intentionally enough about when we're thinking about what behaviors we want a student to be demonstrating in a given situation, and we're trying to reward the student into doing that more often. But we don't think about, did we give them any times to practice it and learn it and become proficient at it before we are expecting them to use it in a very highly stressful or high demand or unfamiliar new situation. So just something to think about if you're working with students who have a particular behavior situation that you're wishing they would handle differently. You might ask yourself, at what point have I given that student any direct instruction on what to do in that situation? And maybe even more importantly, how many opportunities have I given them to practice what I want them to do in a low risk, low demand, high support situation before I'm asking them to demonstrate that skill in a very stressful or novel situation? So food for thought, give it some thought, and hopefully that will give you a new perspective on a student this week. Thanks and have a great day.